Sometimes when God starts to move in a new way, even believers start to push back at first. When the Spirit's at work, we have to be willing to lay down tradition and rejoice in God's plan, even when that looks different than what we originally expected, and especially then. So Acts 11 talks about this and is essentially the aftermath of the encounter that Cornelius and Peter had just had. So when Peter returns to Jerusalem, he gets criticized by all the Jewish leaders for eating with uncircumcised men. So Peter carefully recounts his vision to them. So he tells them about the vision, which is this: I was in the city of Joppa praying, and in a trance I saw a vision, something like a great sheet descending, being let down from heaven by its four corners, and it came down to me. Looking at it closely, I observed animals and beasts of prey and reptiles and birds of the air. And I heard a voice saying to me, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But I said, By no means, Lord, for nothing uncommon or unclean has ever entered my mouth. But the voice answered a second time from heaven, What God has made clean, do not call common. This happened 3 times, and all was drawn up again into heaven. So he tells them about the vision and the Spirit's guidance, and how the Holy Spirit fell on the Gentiles, Cornelius' whole family, just as it did for the Jews at the Pentecost. And that marked the whole turning point where Jews began to accept Gentiles into the church. Later in the chapter, we also see the church in Antioch begin to flourish. This was where the disciples were very first being called Christians. So even believers can struggle to accept God's new work. The Jewish Christians criticized Peter at first, holding tightly to their traditions, but testifying to God's work silences the opposition. Peter did not defend himself with opinions. He gave testimony of what God did with his vision and how that encountered Cornelius and his whole family. When we simply point to the Spirit, arguments and division lose their power. The gospel produces unity, not division. Once the believers heard Peter's account, they glorified God. We have to remain obedient and flexible to the Spirit, because God's work may challenge our expectation. But when we witness his power, the right response is humility, unity, and generosity. Just as the gospel spread from Jerusalem to Antioch, God still raises up the most unlikely people and places to be the center of his mission.